We are live. Hello, and thanks for joining us at Startup Grind this morning. Today's event is brought to you by the Spark Center, a regional innovation center in Durham region. As the Eastern Ontario chapter of Startup Grind, Spark Center is thrilled to bring you these monthly events to inspire, motivate, and challenge you. For those who don't know me, I'm Nick Lindop. I'm the creative lead for the marketing department at Spark Group of Companies. This Startup Grind is being hosted as part of Do It in Durham, Durham region's celebration of entrepreneurship that is held each November during Global Entrepreneurship Week. Do It in Durham Entrepreneurship Week is a collaboration of Durham's business support, educational and networking organizations who have come together to encourage and support entrepreneurs, job creators, and innovators who create economic growth in the Durham region. To see the list of events, visit bacd.ca. Now, before we begin, we would like to thank Spark Center's elite partners, Bearskin and Parr LLP, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Layton, Suresh Law, Real Estate Refreshed, and Coldwell Banker. The interview portion of today's event will begin shortly, but don't forget to stay tuned after the interview for networking. If you haven't tried networking on the Hop-In platform before, it's fun, easy, and a great way to meet some new faces. Now let's get into it. I'm looking forward to chatting with today's guests, and I'd like to welcome the founder and CEO of NotaryPro, Robert Onley, to join me on stage.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Great. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm well, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, just to let everyone know, we had originally we had planned to do this interview live in studio at the Spark Center. We had lights, we had cameras, pyrotechnics, dancers, like the whole works. But then my 4-year-old decided to bring home a wonderful case of COVID. So that kind of threw a big wrench in all of our plans. So hopefully we'll be okay at this point.
Thanks for being a trooper, though, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I was telling Robert earlier before he came on this, I have taken every single cold medicine. I've got Advil, Robitussin, Tylenol, psilocybin, like the works, everything. So we should be good to go.
I'll try to do the talking and give you a little break. Thanks, Nick.
Oh, please. All right, so why don't we get started? So Robert, let me. One of the first things I wanted to ask you is, what in your youth, what made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. I just want to first of all give a shout out to the Spark Center. So my office is inside the Spark Center. So I'm right here in downtown Oshawa. I'm fortunate enough to have a window view that overlooks a really nice mural here in the downtown of Oshawa. And we've had our office here, our headquarters for NotaryPro, inside the Spark Center for the last 16 months or so. And it's really just a wonderful place to run a business and to be surrounded by really awesome people and like-minded entrepreneurs. So it's a thrill to be here today for the Startup Grind. And just to give a little bit of context about me, so I'm a father of 4. I live in Whitby, just about 10 minutes away from the office here. But really, my early years were pretty typical in the sense that I grew up in Scarborough. I had 2 brothers, mom and dad. My dad was on TV. He had a career in broadcasting. And my mom was a singer. She would sing in churches and within different church communities. And so I had parents that were very much in the community and in the mix publicly, who were often speaking at events and on stage. And I think that's one of the key underlying influences for myself and my career, is that I had parents who were not afraid to be up on stage and to be speaking and to be seen leading. And so I grew up with examples of leadership really every day of my life, and in particular, when my parents were invited to different events. And so I think that one of the underlying ethos for me as now an entrepreneur and someone who's running a business with 12 full-time employees and about 250 subcontractors is that foundation of leadership and that instilling of the idea of just confidence in yourself to step out and to step forward in faith and just trust what you're willing to do. But beyond that, I went to public school. I did my undergrad at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. I did a BA in political science. And then I went straight into law school at the University of Windsor Faculty of Law. And then from there, and I'll get into this, but from that point forward really was the beginning of the journey that has led to where I am today, which is running this national notary brand, which is NotaryPro, and really building Canada's first online notary and instant document creation platform. So happy to kind of dig into that as we get going.
For sure. Like now, prior to NotaryPro, had you had any other like entrepreneurial ventures, or is this your first?
Yeah, actually, one of the most sort of random and unique parts of being an entrepreneur is I don't think you'll never really know what your first startup's going to be. I don't think you can really predict it unless maybe
Yeah.
you have a hobby that is really obvious. But my very first entrepreneurial venture was, and this is again completely random, but I installed LED lighting kits in cars when I was 19. And I had a little, what I call a Kijiji business, and you'll hear the word Kijiji a
Yeah.
few times here, but the brand was called Custom Eyes, and the eyes was EYES. And what I did was I added the little LED strips to people's cars. Basically, think of your Honda Civics and Honda Accords.
Yeah.
That was in my second year of undergrad, and all I did was set up an ad on Kijiji, and I had people calling my cell phone, and I installed them in my driveway. And I think that's where I got the taste of really the power of being your own boss and being an entrepreneur and doing something for yourself and controlling the experience end to end. And that was all really facilitated by Kijiji, which coincidentally is how NotaryPro started. So, and I can get into that, but yeah, it was installing LED strips on cars.
So like, let's be honest, is that still your side hustle today? Or are you still
installing
LED strips?
I would say I'm secretly a huge car guy. I love the automotive industry. I'm super passionate. I follow it very closely. I know all the latest makes and models. But no, I've stopped installing LEDs. That was a one and done summer business. So,
well, okay. So one thing that you mentioned is that like you'd went to school to be a lawyer. Is that sort of were you planning on being a lawyer?
Well, so interestingly, I would say all through my academic career, my parents were strong believers in my capabilities and encouraged me to excel really at everything I do. And I know that often sounds like a cliche, but I did and do have parents that just really fundamentally believed in my capabilities. And so there was a stretch there, probably grade 6 to maybe grade 11, where I was really keen on actually being an engineer, to be an automotive engineer. I was really passionate about understanding car design, automotive design, and the engineering behind it. And then something happened in and around grade 11, which is, how do I put this? I failed physics in grade 11. And I realized that my brain wasn't wired in a way that could really understand some of the more technical concepts.
Oh, yeah.
Conversely, I got an A in my grade 11 law class, and my law teacher in grade 11 said, "Have you thought about going to law school once you get through undergrad?" And that started a whole bunch of conversations. And where I was excelling in school was actually in more of the sort of oratory, the writing, the critical thinking, and being able to articulate arguments. And so that started a whole process of pursuing law. And actually, my dad, I think he would often make a somewhat, I would argue, kind of backhanded comment, which is, Robert, you're really good at arguing with me, so maybe you should be paid to do that professionally. And then my grandfather was also a lawyer, so I sort of had that in the family, I guess you could say, as a backdrop to my upbringing.
So it's in your genes.
It's in the genes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my dad recently passed, but one of my sort of claims to fame was that he did 1 year of law school and then he actually dropped out, and I actually completed law school. So I made sure to remind him of that on the day I graduated at Windsor Law. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, okay. So for NotaryPro, so you've done law school, and then you founded NotaryPro in 2016.
Right.
So can you tell us about the pain points that led to that business idea? Like how did you come up with the idea for NotaryPro?
Yeah, so after law school, and make it quick, I went actually and worked at Global Affairs Canada. It used to be called the Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development. So I worked there for just over 2 years or 2.5 years, and really excellent environment. But then I got offered an opportunity to join a newer law firm that was starting out in Ottawa. And I joined that law firm, and I think I was quickly asked if I had my notary stamp, and I said, no, I don't, I'll go get it. So I went and got it. And then we had someone knock on the door asking to get a document notarized. And of course, being the junior lawyer in this very new and small firm, they're like, Rob can help you. And so that very first client, I remember him distinctly. He was an elderly man, probably in his late 80s. And I recognized immediately that he really did not understand what he needed done. He did not understand what it meant to get a document notarized. He didn't understand how much it should cost or really what the service should look like. And I think at that moment, I had a little bit of a light bulb, inspiration. And I recognized that there was an opportunity here within the marketplace for a notary service that was simple, that it was easy, that the pricing was transparent. And that was really the nexus for what became NotaryPro. Initially, it was just called Notary Public Ottawa, and I set up a really basic website. And then in 2018, I formally incorporated and branded it as NotaryPro. So I think that was really the core pain point, was really, what is a notary public? What is that service? And put simply, and I'll keep it brief, but a notary is a licensed official appointed by the government who has the authority to witness signatures and to confirm and verify identities and to attest to that fact or to state that fact by signing a document alongside a client who signs their document. So it's an ancient profession. It dates back to the Roman Empire, but with the emergence of the issues of identity fraud, the role of the notary has actually been somewhat resurrected, in particular in the last 10, 15 years.
Well, I gotta say, I can empathize with that elderly client who had struggles trying to get a notary. 'Cause I had to do it years ago when I think for your passport you had to get it signed by a notary to verify your identity, and oh, it was a nightmare trying to get that done. And I just realized too, maybe just very briefly, what is NotaryPro? Like what exactly does NotaryPro?
Yeah. So today, NotaryPro is a national network of notary publics located all across Canada. We have over 250 licensed legal professionals, either lawyers or paralegals, and in some cases, just dedicated notaries who provide in-person notary public services. But more importantly, today, NotaryPro is Canada's leading online notary public service. So you can now meet with a notary online in your browser, anytime, anywhere, and immediately have your document digitally signed and digitally notarized. The origin of the online notary service was actually as a result of the pandemic. So the Ontario government legalized what is called virtual commissioning. That's the legal framework that allows for what we call online notary services. So virtual commissioning was legalized. NotaryPro, about 3 days after those regulations were introduced, we introduced Canada's first online notary platform. And this platform now comprises almost 35% of all of our business and all of our traffic. And it's where we're seeing a huge surge in demand and growth. And what we recently launched just in the spring of this year is what we call our document creator, or simply the Docs app. And so this Docs app allows clients to visit our website, search for, find, and create a custom, simple legal document in their browser, edit it real time, no apps to download, nothing to install, no accounts required, and then immediately have that document digitally notarized through our online notary platform. So from finding the document you need to creating it, editing it, and then digitally notarizing it, most clients can complete that entire journey, but just between 7 to 10 minutes. And that's really an industry first, and what we're really excited about. And of course, happy to touch on that as we go here.
Oh, for sure. So with NotaryPro, are there any other businesses that do something similar, or are you the first of its kind?
Yeah, we're the first real national brand within Canada that's providing this online instant document and notarization service. There are definitely a few other players within the space across Canada, and there's lots of other local notaries all over different cities and in different provinces. And so NotaryPro really is the first company nationally within Canada to just bring it all together under a simple, trusted brand with a really simple and intuitive website that makes finding a notary in your community super easy, or immediately meeting with a notary online, really as simple as just filling out our intake form and then jumping into a video call, just like we are today. But really, there's not a ton of major competition in this space, and we have a lot of respect, obviously, for all the different companies that are out there looking for notary services. But NotaryPro truly is the national trusted leading online notary public platform.
So I guess is that what sets you apart? You're sort of the very first, and I think the Yeah. Are you the very first? Is that
Yeah,
what sets you
well, I
apart?
think there's a couple of keys that set NotaryPro apart from the competition, and first and foremost, it's our commitment to customer service excellence. And so, if anyone is out there listening that's looking at starting a business, at the core of everything we do is a commitment to exceptional five-star service. And it sounds a little corny, maybe sounds a little cliche, but in the day and age we're in, where people can jump on Google and really just blast you with a one-star review or a zero-star review, you
Yeah.
really do have to keep a really keen eye on your customer service and how well you're handling customer issues, because they do arise. We deal with them, really probably on a weekly basis. Someone will have a little bit of a pain point with us or a bit of friction, and so within our company, and this is just one of the keys here that differentiates us. But if there is a review that's less than a 5-star, we consider that a failure. So even a 4-star review is considered a failure, and that underlying ethos, I really truly believe, has driven our success, because it's really a zero tolerance for failure within
Yeah.
the organization. But beyond that, honestly, our technology is really unmatched in terms of the stack that we've built, the platform that allows for our team to provide instant on-demand online notary services, and now instant online document editing and creating. There's a lot of tools out there. There's DocuSign and Zoom and Google
Yeah.
Docs and ChatGPT. And so what NotaryPro has done has effectively brought all of those together into a single interface that allows our team to very quickly and very efficiently and very accurately provide instant online notary services.
And you said you could have a notary sign it within 7 minutes?
Yeah, so our document creator, if you're checking out notarypro.ca/documents, you can find some of the most commonly notarized documents, and we're adding more basically every week. And you can check out any document and then immediately start editing it, just like you do a Google Doc. I think most
Right.
people watching are probably familiar with Google Docs. You're able to edit it real time, add formatting, bold, underline, spacing, and everything else, and then proof it, and then push it into our online notary app, and then go through our checkout flow to then meet with a notary. And it's really that simplicity and that lack of friction that I think differentiates us. And just to speak to sort of a further fundamental premise for our company, we really truly believe that the reign of terror of the PDF as a document medium is coming to an end. We
Oh,
believe that a PDF should not
thankfully.
be a barrier. Yeah, PDFs I think have done their job. There's always going to be a role for them, but we don't think that the average consumer should have to pay for a subscription to a premium PDF editing tool. And I won't name names, but
Yeah.
we don't think that should be required for the average consumer to do simple business, to sign an affidavit or to file a government form. And I think that we've set a lot of barriers in front of people that really need to go away. And with all the technology we have today, honestly, NotaryPro is eliminating those barriers for most people.
Oh, and I know the nightmares of the whole like digital signatures on PDFs and different versions of PDF editors and things not lining up, and oh, that can be a total nightmare.
And that's really what we've tackled, right? One of the technical barriers that we've tried to eliminate with our Docs app is the consumer can simply jump online, edit the text of what used to be a PDF. It's now text in their browser, and then customize it as needed, right, real time. There's no need to download the PDF, open it with a program, resave it, go back to our website, hope you find the right file, re-upload it, only to find out you uploaded the wrong one when you
Yeah.
re-uploaded it. So all those pain points are eliminated with our instant documents app. And just to give a sneak peek for the future, we're working on a new iteration of this app that really strongly leverages AI and a lot of the generative AI capabilities that exist. And so, I can touch on it a little bit, but without giving away too much, it's going to be far more powerful, I think, than anything the market's really seen to date.
So, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you as well was how your business has changed from when you first started Notary Pro to today. And you kind of mentioned AI, because the like Chat GPT only really sort of came into the public eye about a year ago
Yeah.
now. So it's a very recent thing. I think everyone's kind of looking at that. So like, is that the sort of biggest change to Notary Pro that you see on the horizon?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the role of AI is starting to emerge. And I was actually just chatting with a colleague yesterday, and we were talking about how amazing all these new AI features are. And I said, from my perspective, it may as well be 1995 with the dawn of the internet in terms of where AI is today. Like I think where AI is going to be even in a year or 2 years or 5 years, it will blow away everything we're looking at right now. And I know, for example, many people listening maybe have tried the ChatGPT image generator with DALL-E 3. If you don't know what I'm referring to, check out, just go on Google, I guess, and look for a video there. But the ability to literally write text and create an image is it's really mind-blowing if you haven't tried it yet. And so these are just the earliest concepts and proofs of concept that OpenAI has released to the public. And OpenAI is really just one of the players. But in terms of NotaryPro and the future and how we've changed, I mean, fundamentally, we've shifted the core operations to be an online first operation. And so we are trying to serve clients as quickly as possible. We know that the average consumer expects digital solutions to everyday problems and everyday services. And so NotaryPro has put a digital notary service front and center. I think that's the biggest change. It started as a national network of notaries. Actually, it started as a city-based network of notaries in Ottawa, and then grew into a national network. And we are still hard at work at growing our network and serving our network and actually building more value-add services for our local network. But the core operation is definitely now a much more technology-focused enterprise, particularly in terms of our staffing of our development team.
So just to touch on that, so you guys have seen some incredible growth since 2016. What would you say has been the biggest contribution to that success?
Well, yeah, I think I touched on it at the outset, and that is really the fundamental organizational-wide commitment to customer service excellence. And I think sometimes companies will say, "Oh, yeah, we have strong customer service." Well, I say we have a strong commitment to customer service excellence, meaning it's not just about good customer service. It must be excellent. It must be exceptional, and it must be exceptional at every touch point. So we are constantly looking at our analytics in terms of response times, call duration. We have a really strong customer support team that provides rapid responses to a really myriad set of different questions that we get. And being a national brand with a 1-888 number on our website and on every listing all across Canada, maybe not surprisingly, we get a lot of questions that are extremely complicated, basically legal questions. Of course, NotaryPro is not a law firm. We can't provide legal advice, but we do provide what we call near legal support. So we'll help you in your legal document journey to the limits that we can. And if we can't, then we refer you to a lawyer or to a paralegal to provide that support. And I think that's really where the operation has had to focus itself. You know, there's always lots of little shiny objects to chase after and lots of new concepts to latch onto. But we in particular are leveraging AI as an example, just to sort of bring the question together here, to really support and bolster our customer service operation. Because frankly, the generative AI capabilities, when they are properly trained and properly prompted, are pretty tough to compete against as a human. So under human supervision, we're providing, I think, even stronger and better support. And a super quick example is we now have a generative AI customer service bot on all of our Google listings that can provide support in any language. And that's really phenomenal. It detects the language, and it provides the exact same answers in the language of the customer who's submitted the inquiry, right? And so, like, if everyone just pause and think about that for a second, and that's truly, truly revolutionary, right?
Yeah, especially in Canada, because Canada is like such a diverse group of people. We literally have every language, every culture here. So you really need to be able to do every language. So Rob, I do have just to take a little bit of a break from our normal line of questioning, because I'm seeing a bunch of questions in the chat. Everybody's wondering, behind you, what is the little glue bottle looking thing? We need to know.
So it's not a glue bottle. This is what is called an emotional support lemon in the NotaryPro colors. This was given to me by one of our former colleagues who was a crocheter. And so she crocheted this for me, and it's really just something for me to have when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling angry or I'm frustrated. I think you used to call them a stress ball, but nowadays it's called an emotional support lemon. And so I was really touched by that. It's completely obscure and random, but I just love the genuineness of the thought and the compassion from my former colleague. And so it has stayed on my shelf here for a while now, and it's going to go back there. But I really recommend, if you don't have an emotional support lemon, you should get one.
So that could be your next business. You could just start making emotional support lemons.
Well, and the underlying idea is the old sort of cliche, what do you do when you get lemons? You turn them into lemonade, right? You gotta turn moments of sourness in your life into something that's a little bit more joyful. So yeah.
You know what? Just a thought. Yeah. And just a thought. I was just thinking, Robert, this is my business idea, but maybe add some LED lights underneath the emotional support lemons. That can be like the next big thing.
I know how to wire them, so we'll talk after.
Perfect. Okay, so back to the normal line of questioning, though, but this kind of leads into that. You've got employees giving you emotional support lemons, but how would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, the underlying style, if you will, is really to lead with compassion and lead with empathy in terms of my engagement with my team. And so, we have an internal motto, which is family first. And I think that if you boil down the average day for most employees, they're here, they're doing their job. Hopefully they believe in the mission, the mandate, and the vision of the company. But if something comes up with their family, we always say, hey, family first, deal with what you got to deal with. And that leadership style, I think, really cultivates a culture of trust and one of compassion and support for each other. I mentioned that my dad passed this year, and I mean, I was just nothing but supported by my team. I was able to take pretty much a full month off to deal with everything that went along with that. And so I've really tried to capture that moment and instill it within the organization to be an organization where the executive team in particular and the founders lead by example by really showing compassion to everyone. I think one of the other keys for us that we've been trying to get better at, because we are a principally remote company, is really emphasizing the power of connection and the power of meeting in person. And so I would say, as a company that sort of emerged from the pandemic, scaled during the pandemic, and then now we're in this sort of post-pandemic period. Sorry, Nick, I know you have COVID right now, but we've really tried to push the need to get together in person again. And so, for example, our latest hire here at the Oshawa office is here 5 days a week, and we really believe that that's a critical part of our continued growth. We will support remote work, but we've really found that there's a lot of synergy and collaboration that happens much more organically, obviously, when you're in person. So there's been a lot of articles I've seen, Microsoft and Facebook, and a lot of chatter about that. I definitely believe in the need to be together at least once a week as an organization. And we've seen the benefits of it after that. Sort of starting around mid last year, I said, hey, like, everyone's got to get back in the office. We do have an Ottawa office where on a good day we can have as many as 6 employees in there. So for a team of 12, that's significant to have that face time.
For sure, it's definitely a different environment when you have everybody together. So what would be your as a leader yourself, what would be one sort of bit of advice you'd give to other leaders out there, or like what a bit of advice would you give for people who have their own team?
Yeah, I think, well, maybe I'll speak to people who are starting up, who are in that entrepreneurial phase, or maybe you're in the bootstrap phase where you're running a little side hustle off the side of your desk while you're still working another full-time job. I think the strongest advice I could give, and I would give to myself if I could go back in time, is to surround yourself with a network group or a peer group of experts. So people that are better than you at the things that you want to get better at, and look for that opportunity to network with people who really excel in their industry and who are willing to mentor you or give you a bit of time or give you a bit of feedback. When I look back, I think I maybe waited a little too long to, for example, bring in someone who understood marketing better than me, or bring in an accountant to help me understand a P&L statement. And I think that would be my strongest advice. And if you're in a business that is scaling, you have traction, you have good product market fit, and you're looking kind of to go to that next level, you really are going to have to find some mentors and find others who maybe are in related industries who can just come alongside you and kind of course correct you a little bit and say, hey, you know what, I like your idea, but I would suggest this. And you need to have that challenge function. And I think my last comment would be that as tempting as it is to just use, tools like ChatGPT and Google sort of endlessly, you're going to burn yourself out. If you try to continue doing everything, you will burn yourself out. And I know there's all those people on Instagram and Facebook Reels that are sort of suggesting, yeah, you can make 6 figures in a week, just follow this simple code and you have to pay for a course. Yeah. Sure, there's a time and place for some of that maybe, but nothing happens overnight. And the last thing I'd say, if you look on the notarypro.ca website right now and you're thinking, oh, wow, the website looks nice or whatever, just remember that is the product of literally almost 8 years of blood, sweat, tears, if you will, lots of emotion, a lot of energy, and a lot of dialogue about font size, button placement, button width. Like everything is hyper calculated, right? So there's no magic formula to do it overnight or in a week. So that's probably my biggest sort of package of advice I could think of.
Well, okay, so I wanted to ask you something on the, another sort of fun question here. So during your 8-year long journey, geez, 2016 doesn't seem that far away, but
tell me about it.
Exactly, right? What was your most favorite part of the journey over the 8 years? And also, what was your least favorite part of the journey over the last 8 years?
Most favorite, I think, honestly, was traveling to Los Angeles in February of 2022 to pitch to a group of investors. That was, I think, the biggest, and when I say Los Angeles, I actually mean Venice Beach, which if you sort of follow the VC world, the venture capital world, it's really the hub and the nexus of the VC world. Traveling to LA to pitch to investors was one of those like pinch me, total imposter syndrome moments where I could not believe that we'd actually gotten to that stage where they were impressed enough with our Zoom pitch or our virtual pitch to say, come down, let's talk, let's meet in person. And really it was because that was how they did business, and they wanted to sort of shake hands and get a sense of who we were. And that pitch was, what was interesting was it was in a living room of a house in Venice Beach and on a couch, sitting there for almost 3 hours. It was just a long conversation. And they were really just testing our mettle and our ability to respond to a ton of questions. And those are actually the investors that supported us with our first angel round last year. And I think that was really definitely, I think, the highlight in the last sort of recent history of NotaryPro. And of course, what I feel now is that I can't believe I thought I was ready to even do that back then, because where we are today and how we message things today, there's no comparison. In terms of the least favorite, I mean, honestly, it's no joke that when you are running a side hustle and you're doing it in the evenings and on weekends, like there's definitely moments where you're going to doubt yourself and you're going to say, man, what am I doing? This is crazy, or this is so stupid, or I'm so frustrated. Like that is normal. That self-doubt, I think, is really just your human nature. I think it's by nature you start to question things. So I think that's probably the least favorite part of the journey. When I look back, there was a window there, and actually our sales records show this, where I strongly contemplated shutting the whole thing down in 2017. And that was due to a couple different issues that had arisen at that time. And so if you look at the old sales history, it basically drops for almost 2 months to almost nothing. And it's crazy to think that almost killed the whole idea. The whole enterprise was because I went through a season of just strong doubt and real frustration with my personal inability to keep it scaling. And it was right around that time. Yeah, right around that time is when I started to meet some people to get actual expert help. And to be honest with you, it had a lot to do with, I just didn't understand corporate finance. And that's the joke I always make, is like, I'm a lawyer. I don't have an MBA. I got an MBA on the street, working hard nonstop, for the last 7.5 years. So,
there's a whole other world.
The whole other world. And once you start getting it to understand, balance sheets and income statements and P&Ls, it's a whole different ballgame. So, and we have a great CFO on our roster, and you need to have that team of experts. I think I'm sort of repeating my other comment, but that's the only way you're going to get through those low periods. You need to have other people who can come alongside you and say, hey, you know what, Rob, it's not as bad as you think. here's why, and they're going to point out stuff that you wouldn't possibly understand. So yeah,
I think that's basically the importance of building a strong team,
yes,
right?
yeah.
So, well, is there anything that you would have done differently during the last 8 years? Is there any like mistake or something that you say you look back on, you go, oh, I should have done this?
I think it would be to, and I thought about this last night when I was preparing it, and that is, I wish that I had spoken, and this might sound a little bit cliche too, but I wish I'd spoken more truth to more people more often. I think I went through periods where I didn't want to rock the boat internally, or I didn't want to rock the boat with my co-founders, and so I
Yeah,
kept things to myself. I kept them to my chest. And of course, just like in your personal life, like that will eventually come out of you somehow, and it'll either be manifest, unfortunately, in anger or sleeplessness or poor health. But I really, if I look back, there were seasons where I probably should have just been more brutally honest about things that were going on within the business. And we now, as an example, I have two co-founders who are actually attending SAS North today up in Ottawa, but we now have a mechanism, and we meet quarterly, and this is just by way of example. We meet quarterly in person. We have a whole bunch of executive level meetings and strategic planning, and we review everything we're doing. And then we have what we call the quarterly airing of the grievances, and we put everything on the table. We say,
yeah,
hey, you're doing this. I don't like that. Why are you doing that? And that forum, that safe space, if you will, to air grievances, it has been phenomenal, because you know it's coming. You know the conversation's going to suck. We usually do it towards the end of the day after all the good productive meetings.
yeah,
And then you put it in writing, you put it on the table, and then we create action plans to address it. And so it's
right.
never meant to be a personal attack. It's meant to be something that helps the business grow and get stronger, right? So I think that's probably what I would do differently, is build that into your infrastructure. So if you're building a business right now, build in that functionality to be honest with your team. And sometimes as the founder, you need the honesty back from your team, because they are honestly probably going to be afraid to say stuff to you. If you're the founder and you're or maybe you're the only one who's really in charge of your company, trust me, your employees are going to be afraid to bring things to the surface. And so it's really important to have a venue for that. It will only make you stronger.
So I guess transparency is sort of like that a core value of this, get everything out.
Yeah, yeah, and it has to be.
So would you say, and I think we might have answered this a little bit already, but as an entrepreneur, what is the biggest roadblock to success? Like, what would you say is, or what advice would you give other entrepreneurs? I think you touched on it a little bit with maybe that self-doubt, or do you think that's the biggest roadblock you can have as an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, and actually, I was thinking about this last night. I'm going to make the case that, and it's going to maybe sound contradictory, but there are so many opportunities facing and being offered to entrepreneurs today. I think the biggest roadblock for a lot of people is their ability to focus and their ability to stay disciplined with what they're working on.
Right.
And I'm the biggest, my co-founders, when they watch this later, they're going to laugh, because I'm the biggest culprit of this, which is, we call it chasing squirrels. Like, ooh, look at that cool opportunity. Let's go do that. And then meanwhile, we were 75% done an existing project that we decided to basically shelve because we chased that squirrel for, 2 weeks. I think so. That's probably the biggest barrier for a lot of startups and founders right now, is honestly, you're going to face the time suck that is Instagram, maybe your vice is Twitter. Those are ultimately great platforms if you can control your consumption. But if you're not careful, it's going to distract you, and you're going to have your brain so overloaded with ideas and opportunities and podcasts to listen to and blogs to read and
Yeah.
looms to watch. So I definitely think the biggest advice I can give people is set aside time for focused work. Be disciplined with your focused work. So like right now, my phone's on DND. I took my watch off so it doesn't vibrate. Like, you need to have that focused time to be productive. And I think if you fall into the sort of the rat race of trying to keep up with every podcast and all the latest news on BetaKit or TechCrunch or whatever, your brain is just going to be overflowing with useless information. So
Right.
that's really I think my biggest discipline, particularly in the last year, is I'm really pretty much off social media, just personally. I would say I do consume a lot of news via Twitter, but I don't really engage on social media. And of course, there's downsides to that, but I also have a family with 4 little kids, and so I can't really afford to be on my phone when I'm at home, at least until I put them to bed. So
It seems like most people know that like social media can be bad for your health sometimes, for your mental health. Um,
absolutely, and
but
it's true for entrepreneurs too, right? You got to have limits
yeah,
and not get sucked into sort of this false notion that if you know everything, somehow you're going to be a better entrepreneur. I don't really believe in that.
oh, for sure. And the problem is, I think as a business, we all like it's a rabbit hole you can go down with social media, but we still need to use it to market our businesses these days.
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
So, okay, one question I just wanted to ask you as well is, over those 8 years with Notary Pro, what would you say is your proudest moment? What is the thing you're most proud of with Notary Pro?
Well, that's a tough one. I would say honestly, in the last year, launching our documents app is really to me a crowning achievement, if you will, because the Docs app, and again, that allows you to instantly create a custom legal document in your browser, all online and without any apps or downloads. That to me represents really the future vision of the brand and the mission of the company. I'm a lawyer, but I believe that most people, most consumers, for most basic situations, don't need to hire a lawyer, and so it sort of astounds me that within the market there aren't more tools available to people to let them create really simple legal documents that they might need for different purposes. And so creating that Docs app, pairing it with the instant online notary service, really was the fulfillment of many years of discussion and dialogue and debate and deliberation internally. Because we had honestly conceptualized it about 3 years ago. And this is, I guess, another little tip for anyone starting out in their product journey. You should have those discussions about where you see the company in 3 or 5 years, because one day, if the business remains successful, you're going to get there and you're going to be able to roadmap the product launch and the product design and the development timeline. You're going to be able to roadmap that into your coming quarters and your coming calendar years and fiscal years. So it's really critical that you don't lose sight of what your broader vision is. If you think you have a good product market fit, or you have a little traction with another idea, don't lose sight of that. And for us, the Docs app is really just in its infancy. And I'm keeping that in mind right now, because I can see how far our online notary app has come in the last 3.5 years. And I can only imagine, particularly with the AI technologies that we're introducing into the Docs app, how much further the Docs app will be in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And of course, ultimately, our intention is to package everything we're doing into a mobile app, and to allow that to be multilingual, available in every jurisdiction, and not just isolated to Canada. And so that's really, I think, where you need to have that broader scope, vision about what you're looking to achieve, and to set that somewhere. And off camera here, I have a huge whiteboard on this wall, and I have basically like the goals and the vision for the next 2 years, just as that constant reminder of where we're heading and where we're going. Because some things that are coming maybe in the pipeline in a year, there's going to be meetings and touch points maybe this month that are actually going to be starting to lay the foundation layer bricks for what you're going to build and work on, or what your development team is going to work on in 12 or 18 months.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question: is what's next for Notary Pro? Before you answer that, I just want to remind everybody in the audience, if you have any questions for Rob, please put them in the chat now, because we will be wrapping up soon. So going back, what is next for Notary Pro?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, I touched on it previously, but ultimately what we were trying to do is make notary services as transparent, simple, and as accessible as possible. So right now, Notary Pro is principally serving Canadians in Canada. We do serve hundreds of Canadians who are located outside of Canada every single month. But as we continue to build and scale our platform, we are definitely looking at entering other geographics, so other markets. And the reality is, for us, digital notary services are being legalized and regulated into new countries practically every month, and if not every quarter. Most recently, Australia announced the legalization of signing statutory declarations online as of January 2024. The state of California, which is over, I think, 35 million people, is legalizing online notary as of January of 2024 as well. So more and more jurisdictions are shifting to digital notary. And so we fundamentally believe that NotaryPro as a platform is well positioned to expand and capture new markets where the demographics show and tell that people will expect digital solutions to these services in the coming years, in the coming decades. My view is there's no going back. No one is going to want to go back to printing things out, driving around town, finding a parking spot, going into to meet with a notary. If you can do it all instantly online from the comfort of home and eventually from your smartphone. So that is my vision ultimately, is that NotaryPro is a global brand with a global platform that allows pretty much anyone anywhere to immediately create, edit, and digitally notarize a document, really in the palm of your hand and in any language at any time.
That's amazing. I personally still can't get over having the notaries fill everything out in 7 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay. So as we're wrapping up, I know there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this right now. Do you have any final thoughts or advice you would give to any entrepreneurs out there who are looking to start their own business?
Yeah, I think some of the advice I've sort of breadcrumbed through this interview, but I'd say ultimately is, set goals for yourself, set out a vision for your platform, your product, your service, and document it in a way that it is meaningful to you so that you can reference back to it in the future. I think, again, we live in an era of hyper distraction and hyper opportunity. And so you have to be very disciplined with your intentionality in terms of your meetings, your time investment. And I think that if you do that, you're actually going to be setting up for yourself kind of a North Star for where your company and where your brand goes. At the same time, opportunities will cross your path as a company, and you do have to be ready and able and willing to pivot. NotaryPro pivoted really hard when the pandemic hit. I mean, we started to see it coming, of course, when they were introducing lockdowns in different countries, but be able and willing to have that capacity to assess other opportunities that come at you. And then I think the other biggest takeaway, honestly, and this is pretty much stuff that you hear every day in the news, is you got to take care of yourself. So I know for myself in the last year, I've really doubled down on my personal fitness, on my nutrition. You will burn out as an entrepreneur at some point. I'm of the opinion that any successful startup is built on, frankly, on the backs of people who are probably burnt out on some level. So you have to find ways of separating yourself from the noise of your own business, separating yourself in the evenings or weekends. And I'm also just a big believer in getting a good night's rest. So maybe, again, it's a little bit, a little bit cliche, but if you want to continue succeeding, guess what? You got to be in tip-top shape. You got to have your brain fired up, healthy every morning, well-rested. And I would honestly just really strongly recommend minimize the consumption of all the noise that's out there right now. Of course, there's a lot of news that everyone's consuming. There's a lot of bad news, but find ways of recharging yourself. And I think, honestly, if you take care of yourself first and foremost, your business will actually feel the benefit, because you're going to be a better leader, a better entrepreneur, and you're going to be thinking clearer. So yeah, that's probably my probably top 3 or 4 takeaways there.
Oh, it's great advice. You have to take care of yourself, especially with all the stresses I can imagine you have as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So I guess is where I guess we're wrapping up, and I just wanted to say thank you, Rob. Thanks for coming. This has been fantastic. I think it's some great advice you've given some other entrepreneurs. Was there any last things you wanted to say to everybody?
No, just thank you, Nick. Thanks for the opportunity, and thank you to Kaylee, who helped us get this far. And honestly, big shout out to the Spark Center for this opportunity. It's just a wonderful place to be. And if you're in the area, you're in the Durham region, definitely check us out. We're at the corner of King and Simcoe. Come on by, say hi. And if you need a document notarized, obviously check out notarypro.ca, and our team would be happy to help you out.
What wonderful. And hopefully when I'm feeling better, I'll see you in the office soon. See you, Rob.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. This startup grind was proudly This startup grind was proudly presented by Spark Center in partnership with Do It in Durham. And we want to say thank you again to Spark Center's elite partners, Bearskin and Par, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Leighton, Suresh Law, Real Estate Refreshed, and Coldwell Banker. Our next Startup Grind in December will be taking place in person at Spark Center. Hopefully I'm okay, and I'll be there in person. So stay tuned to Spark Center's social pages for more information and to register. Now it's time for networking. If you wish to join us, you can navigate to this section by clicking the people icon on the left side of your screen. Not sure, my left, your left. You'll be paired up with one person at a time for 3 minutes. You can use this time to get to know each other, and you'll have the option to extend the session if desired. Once the time is up, press ready, and Hopin will automatically move you to the next person. So click the connect button if you'd like to exchange contact information with anyone. Thanks, and I'll see you there. Bye, everyone.